Welcome to the program. Now, according to an old saying, if you fail to learn from history, you are doomed to repeat it. Nigeria is fast descending into socio-political chaos never seen before since independence, and from recent indications, the rhetoric is pushing Nigerians further apart. Now, Nigeria, they say, is at a tipping point. They also say that we have lost our consciousness as a people, our patriotism as citizens, and our love for one another as brothers and sisters from different mothers. So what can reverse engineer the hate and reignite love and peace building? My name is Abdullahi Ahmed, here to set the agenda and further discussion from our studio in Motor Hills. This is On the Spot. Let's get to the heart of the matter. Dr. Agoso Bamaiyi is a writer, a publisher, and a public commentator on socio-political issues, and he joins us on the program. Doctor, thank you. It's nice to have you on the program today. Thank you very much for joining us.
It's nice to be here today. Yeah.
Okay, a very dicey situation. Hate speech is not just on social media, but even on traditional media. Nigeria, as a lot of people would say, is descending into chaos. Something of the likes of which we've never seen before, at least in the social sense. What is your own read into the whole situation at the moment with regards to how the whole rhetoric is negative and the atmosphere is just so tense that it's unachievable to have meaningful conversations?
Yeah, it's before I give an analysis of what is going on, I'll first of all start by saying to Nigerians, cool temper, I beg you, cool temper. We are playing with a lion. And if this lion gets out of hand, all of us will regret. All of us, without exceptions. That's why I have to beg all Nigerians, cool temper. Those of us who have followed events in Nigeria for the past 5-6 years, we saw this coming. If you remember very well, I think we had a discussion on this program where the United Nations, through a study indicated that Nigeria has never been this divided in all its history. In fact, divisions are worse than they were.
As they say, socio-politically, we've never reached this point before.
That's right. And it's a combination of various factors. The economy is not working like it should, and people have nothing to fall back on. So the only thing we fall back on and find some relevance is religion, tribe, and region.
A lot of people would say we've skipped religion. It's now about tribe and region.
It still has religious elements to it. In fact, very strong religious elements, only that it's subterranean. It's not on the surface. And because the economy is not working, people are looking for a diversion. Unfortunately, they are taken to a dangerous diversion, And we really, really have to do something about this at the governmental level, at the family level, the community level, on all fronts. We really have to do something to get Nigerians to begin to talk and act reasonably. As far as it stands now, we have become unreasonable. And it's very dangerous. Now, going back to when Nigeria started out as a country, we started on a good footing. Our educational system was good, it was sound. It wasn't the best because the colonial masters did not educate us to bring out the best in us. No, that was not what they did. They wanted secretaries and interpreters and people who can write, people who can speak to others on their behalf, so they can exploit our resources, exploit our country, you know, and get the best out of it. So they trained us to actually serve their purposes. The training we got from them was not to bring out the best in us so we can build up our country. However, they bequeathed to us a system of education that was functional. And what happened was that we didn't have sufficient vision as a people in terms of leadership to build on that so that we produce Nigerians that are fully developed and fully functional, who will deploy their talents and abilities to produce goods and services and create wealth away from oil.
But is this peculiar or unique to Nigeria? Because a lot of African countries, black African countries, have been colonized before, and they seem to be doing a much better job at running their country than what we are currently doing.
Well, it's an African problem. As it stands right now, there is no black African country that's living up to its potential. I mean, some are doing well, like Ghana, for instance. South Africa is doing well, mainly due to the white population that is there. There's nothing wrong with us as blacks. It's a foundation that we got. That's the problem. But as a people, we're hugely talented, and we can do anything we put our minds to. Nigerians are one of the best human capital in the world.
Some would say that we're putting our minds into destroying each other, because you look at the rhetorics right now, not just online, but you know, just day-to-day interaction. I mean, let's bring in the issue of the IPOB and the Arewa Youth's declaration. I mean, it's a practical example of a country that is gradually disintegrating, fragmenting it, you know, from within, not even from the outside. And apparently, these issues are very, very popular in the north. There are certain issues that are very, very popular that is to the detriment of the rest of the country. You go to the east, far east, and then you have a certain popular agenda that is quite against either the north or the south or the western part of the country. It's as if the four regions are not, you know, united as a people. What seems to be the disconnect between us as a people? I mean, it is one thing to be Nigerian, but a lot of people don't seem to identify themselves as Nigerian first.
You know, when you started on that question, you said something that is very important. We are not looking at the possibilities of the things we can achieve as Nigerians. And these possibilities are huge. In fact, there is no country in Africa that has anything near the potential we have as Nigerians. In the world, we are among the best. Instead of us looking at that, we're looking at what we can achieve individually, the various regions. You know, technically we have 6 regions, but generally there are 4 that count. But the thing is that instead of looking at what we can achieve as a people, as a country, we're busy looking at what we can achieve as individuals. I was trying to get to why we are in this position right now. When the country started out, if we had developed properly and had a diversified economy, if we had continued with the federal system that we started with, because after the Civil War we changed it. Our leaders at that time felt we needed a strong center. So the federal government was made very, very strong. You don't find that model anywhere in the world. It became too powerful. Governors are virtually, you know, extensions of Abuja. You cannot get anything concrete done in your state. You have to run to Abuja. To dredge River Benue here, for instance, our governor cannot do it. He has to go to Abuja. We have resources here in our land, but we have to go to Abuja to get license.
Yeah, but we cannot say that about every other state. I mean, the likes of Lagos, River State, Cross River State, these ones, they appear to be economically doing very well.
Well, they're doing well because of their peculiar locations and also the resources they have. But I'm telling you the truth, Lagos and the rivers that you mentioned can do 100 times, maybe 1,000 times, a lot better than they're doing right now in a different system. So the system, the federal system, is actually tying us down. And then over time, we have not diversified our economy, and the leaders in the past have not invested in the future. Education went down, the health sector went down, everything went down, and our population kept growing. Right now, the projections are 180 million, some other projections are 200 million, you know, and the United Nations has said if we continue at this rate by 2050, we will be the third biggest country on earth in terms of population. And the resources are just not there to take care of that kind of population. So the economy is not working, we're not making as much money as we used to make in the 70s, 60s, and 70s.
So is there a connection between this hate or this social dysfunction economically to the situation?
That's the point I'm trying to make. Yeah. That's the point I'm trying to make. If things are moving in Nigeria as they ought to move, you know, if we had grown naturally, like we should, like we started growing, and our economy had been fully diversified away from oil. It's a monoproduct economy now, but we started not with oil. We had palm in the palm and cocoa in the south, the southwest and southeast. We had granite here in the north. I mean, every region of the country had something it was contributing. But when oil came, our initiative died down. Nobody was doing anything. We just sat back and felt oil will take care of us. Unfortunately, oil is no longer taking care of us. We're not making enough money from oil. The Niger Delta militancy is disrupting our production, so we don't meet our quota. The price of oil in the international market has gone down, and the world is also walking away from fossil fuels. The US used to buy fuel from us. They don't buy anymore. China has cut down what it used to buy from us. So we're looking at a losing situation. We have to diversify and diversify quickly. This should have been done. This would have been done since if we had visionary leadership. We were making money. Instead of investing it in building a future, we just enjoyed it in the moment.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems as if you're saying that if the economy had been doing better, we wouldn't have the Igbos hating on the Nigerian situation right now. We wouldn't have the IPOB situation. We wouldn't have the Adawites with that declaration. We wouldn't have people from the western part of the country calling for an Oduduwa Republic.
We wouldn't have Boko Haram.
We wouldn't have Boko Haram.
That's right.
If the standard of living for Nigerians has been, you know, economically good, we wouldn't be having...
No. We would not have this issue. We would be quarreling about something else. And it will not be this fierce. It will not be this ferocious.
Is it safe to say then, to just wrap things up, that it just further, you know, defines this, the idiom, a hungry man?
It's an angry man. That's the way it is. That's the way it has always been. Don't forget, we are animals of a higher class, of course. I mean, I know people won't like it when I say we are animals, but we are. We are human animals. We are of a higher class. But if you take care of the needs of a human being, just like that of a lower animal, he's well fed, well taken care of, he has standard shelter, he can meet all his needs and the rest of it, he's not going to have time to be shouting about issues. When IPOB is saying we want to get out of Nigeria, what they are thinking about is the promise of a better life. The assumption is if we are not part of this arrangement called Nigeria, then we can go ahead and live better lives. That's the assumption. Which means if our leaders initially had done what needed to be done and invested in the future and developed the future, we would not be talking this now. Because what they are looking for, they would have here. So they would not make noise about getting out of here to find it somewhere. I remember way back then, during the Mamsa days, there was this advert on NTA. I don't know whether you are old enough then to remember it. Andrew, it's like, yeah, man, I'm checking out. I'm tired of no water, no light, no this, no that, you know, and the rest of it. You look at other countries, you see these things. You look at your country, you don't see it. You want to check out. They're bringing back Nigerians from Europe, from Libya, from all over the world. The Nigerians are everywhere becoming a nuisance because things are not working here. They want to run away and go to places where things are working. So there's a huge socio-economic angle to this.
Frustration.
Frustration. People are just frustrated. And as a result, we look around and we want to find somebody who we can blame. So the Arewa people, the Arewa youth, I don't know who they are because they don't represent me, are feeling Igbos are the problem. And Igbos are feeling the Arewa people are the problem. And we're shouting at each other instead of talking to each other. We have a common problem here. What is biting the Arewa person is the same thing that is biting the Igbo, the same thing that is biting the Yoruba, the same thing that is biting people in the Niger Delta.
Exactly my point. I mean, if it's about real legitimate issues like job equality or equity or distribution of resources, I mean, it's something that you go to the South, you find that there are certain economic challenges, whether it be in the education sector or in the health sector or infrastructure. I mean, there's a deficit in every corner of Nigeria that you go to. There's no region that is perfectly doing very well. I mean, we all have a share of our own challenges. Is fixing it going to take away this negative rhetoric? Because it seems to me as if it goes beyond just meeting these economic challenges. It goes beyond just providing people with socio-economic benefits to be able to, douse this tension. It's as if there's something, beneath all these agitations and the negative rhetoric.
Well, it's, there are people who benefit from this and they bring other angles to it. But the truth of the matter is, I have a feeling, it's a deep feeling. I've taken time to study it, so it's not just a feeling. If this country had developed the way it started and the way it has potential to develop, we will be talking about something else today, not IPOB or...
Should we blame the military then? Because a lot of people thought they started it from the first coup in the 1960s. And then followed by the Civil War.
Now, I don't like to blame the military per se. These are Nigerians. I mean, before you are a soldier...
Someone has to take responsibility. I mean, doctor, someone has to take responsibility.
That's what I'm saying. Before you are a soldier, you are an ordinary Nigerian. And when you retire, you become an ordinary Nigerian. So these are Nigerians. We blame ourselves.
But
and the soldiers didn't hold to power on their own. They had civilian collaborators. So it's a Nigerian problem. Let's not start blaming the military. Let's blame Nigerians who used the opportunity of being in the military and having firepower to impose themselves and their wish and their will on us. I keep saying it, and I will say it again. That Kaduna Nzegu-led coup was a mistake, was a big mistake. And the reaction to it from the north made it worse. Nigeria would probably be telling a different story without that. But it happened, and we're where we are now. We have to seek solutions instead of apportioning blame.
Is there a link between what is happening today and what has happened in the past? Did it, is the past haunting us in the present time?
It is. It is. Because what is happening right now is very similar to what happened way back then. Very similar. We're having a repeat of history. When you started there, you mentioned the fact that if we do not learn from our mistakes, then we will repeat history. And that is what is happening. We seem not to have learned from it. That no section of the country can impose itself successfully on the other. I like to give the example that you cannot knock somebody down and you want him to stay down without staying with him. You have to stay with him. Either you put a leg on him and stay there, or you are on the ground lying down on him, keeping him down. No section of this country should think that it can impose its wish on the rest of the country indefinitely. It's not going to happen. Nothing is permanent. People will arise and begin to kick against it. In other words, we can have the best for this country if we learn to work together. There has to be cooperation. We need to remember, we need to emphasize our human value before anything else. I keep telling people, if I were born in the East, for instance, and I grow up there, because of the environment, I will become acculturized. What that means is I will speak like an Igbo man, I will act like an Igbo man,
think like
I'll think like an Igbo man, but I'm not Igbo. I mean, both my parents are from the north. I have 4 different blood running in my vein. You know, the environment in which you grow affects who you are. You have hereditary, but you also have environment. These things will affect you, and the outcome of your life will be a reflection of the environment in which you grow. But foundationally, fundamentally, primarily, of utmost importance is the fact that you are first a human being. None of us was born with our tribe inscribed on us. None of us was born with our religion inscribed on us. I am a Christian today mainly because I was born into a Christian family. If I were born into a religious family, I probably wouldn't have a religion today. If I were born into a Muslim family, I probably would be a Muslim. I mean, when I grew up at a point, I gave a mental, deliberate, personal accent to being a Christian. But I was born into a Christian family. It has influenced who I am today. So I look beyond the fact that I was born into a Christian family. I look to the fact that I am a human being.
I mean, I like that particular point that you said, because it connects with something the great Nelson Mandela once said. I mean, nobody is born to hate. Nobody is born to, evil. I mean, you learn these things. You learn to hate, and then we can reverse engineer that. I mean, how do we reverse engineer this hate that looks too real? Not just for me, but for a lot of people who seem to think that you look at the tweets, you look at the Facebook posts, and then you wonder, these people actually hate us. I mean, it's real. It's almost as if you can feel it. I mean, whether you're from the east, whether you're from the north, whether you're from the south or the west. I mean, you feel as if these things are actually genuine. I mean, there's genuine hate or something like that. How do you reverse engineer that?
Well, it's not going to be easy, but it can be done. And we have to start. Reasonable people must speak up. Unfortunately, reasonable people have been quiet for too long. We have allowed unreasonable people to dominate the public space, to dictate to the rest of the country, especially the simple, ordinary people, what to think and how to think. I
have a feeling you're talking about politicians, because they're the ones pretty much in charge of the rhetorics.
Yeah, not just
in the public domain.
And not just politicians.
But they're the loudest voices, I mean.
Of course. Yeah. But in terms of these hate speeches and this secessionist tendencies, you have people like Kanu on the other side of, in the east, and then you have these faceless Arewa youths. These are not politicians. They probably are being sponsored by politicians, but you know, these are people who are seeking relevance, but they're seeking it in the wrong way. I want to be relevant. I'm a human being. But I want to be relevant by contributing positively. I want to be relevant by bringing up ideas and doing positive things that add to the society, not that take away from the society. I don't want to be a warlord, you know, get arms and start a fight and get a little territory that I control. I'm the Ogade, the big fish in the pond. No. I don't want to be in a pond. I want to be in the sea with everybody. And yet, within that sea with everybody, I want to be relevant. I can only gain that relevance through positive activity, positive engagement. And so personally, I do not get myself involved in this negative rhetoric. I know where it's going to lead to. I know where it led to when a young man called Hitler came up and started telling Germans that the reason for their difficulties and challenges are the Jews. Because the Jews, as it was back then, and it's still now, control the economy of Germany. So they felt that there were the problems and all that. Gradually, the reasonable people were like, forget about him, he's an unreasonable man, he's not going anywhere. Gradually, this man became the leader of Germany and started the purges, you know, which resulted in the Holocaust. 6 million Jews within a short period, completely gone, in horrible ways, started a world war that affected the whole of Europe and the rest of the world. You know, like a joke, this kind of rhetoric. Close by here at home in Rwanda, 1994, it started like a joke. You know, look at Rwandans. These are the same people, the same people. They are Christians. Not only are they Christians, but they are Catholics. So not one section is in different part of Christianity, and they are all within the same section of Christianity. And originally, these people are the same people. They're like the Bachama and the Bata.
Okay.
The Bachama and the Bata, they have the same source, but at a point they broke away. And negative rhetoric started as a result of occurrences in the country and got amplified until people believed that they were doing the right thing. They believed that they were serving God if a Hutu killed a Tutsi or Tutsi killed a Hutu. It started like a joke. Within a short time, they were at each other's throats. Within a very short time, 800,000 were killed. At the end of it, over 1 million people. And this is a very small country, within a short time. So when it starts like this and reasonable people keep quiet, unreasonableness and unreasonable people have their way. So to turn around and solve this problem, reasonable people must start speaking. Our elders must speak up against this. Our traditional leaders must speak up against this. Our politicians must speak up against this. Our religious leaders must speak up against this. No matter what momentary benefit you are going to get by, giving into this negative rhetoric, at the end of the day, you will be a loser. We will all gain if we keep calm and act reasonably. So let's begin to speak against this thing, and let's begin to act against it. I mean, I put up some posts on Facebook, and people enter and begin to say all kinds of things, especially when I'm saying something concerning the government. At a point, I was keeping quiet. But I said to myself, no, I'm not going to keep quiet. If anybody comes in and says something negative, I'm going to go in there and counter it. And that's the way. Let's let these people know that you cannot come and shout on us and have your way. You cannot come with an unreasonable point and have your way. No way. We have to stand up and speak against this thing. After all, those of us who are reasonable are more than those that are unreasonable. Because we're keeping quiet, they think they can talk anything and have their way. We must stand up and speak against this. We must organize ourselves and act against this and tell Nigerians that all of us will benefit if we act reasonably and do the right thing. It's for the benefit of us all.
Okay, I would like for us to have a discussion about whether talking will do all of the business for us or whether we need to do more, especially as we talk about reverse engineering this whole hate speeches that is a very big problem for Nigeria, the world's most populous black nation and one of Africa's largest economies. This discussion will continue after this very short break. Remember that you're welcome to share your thoughts, views and suggestions with us on this program. Coming to after the break, Dr. Agoso Bamaiyi will still be here as we further analyze the situation with hate speeches in Nigeria and how it is continuing to divide Nigerians along ethno-religious and socio-political. More of this after this very short break. Stay with us.
We are in an era where news travels faster than anything else. That's why we are factual and concise. Straight to the point, we tell our stories. With our digital storytelling expertise, our delivery is most important.
United States President Donald Trump
Avengers said the ongoing sabotage says there are plans to celebrate
is in line with a 3-month ultimatum.
Gotel Newsweek. We are news. Transparency is our name.
In Nigeria today is our focus on the sport. We are with Dr. Agoso Bamaiyi, a writer, a publisher, and a public commentator on socio-political issues. A quick reminder that you're welcome to share your thoughts, views, and suggestions with us on the program. We'd like to hear what you think is the way forward as we try to negotiate peace from one region to the other, especially among Nigerians from different parts of this country. Doctor, let's speak up on that. How do we negotiate peace between Nigerians from different parts of the country? Because what the people in the north want might be different from what the people from the south want, or from the east, or from the west. How do we negotiate peace in this very tense atmosphere at the moment?
First of all, we must start talking to each other. We have
in a different way?
Yeah, in a different way. What we're doing now, we're not really talking, we're shouting at each other. That's what we're doing now.
Some say we're only talking, we only talk when the kind of communication we're having is okay, when the north is talking, the east is listening and just waiting to respond after. They're not listening actually.
Yeah, they're not really listening. They're just planning their response.
Yeah, their response, exactly.
Yeah. We have to talk to each other. We have to talk to each other. Let's stop shouting and start talking. And the government itself has to be involved in this. A government agency like the what is it called, the National Orientation Agency, they have to be more forthcoming. I follow the National Orientation Agency carefully because the kind of work they do is work I'm interested in. And I'm really interested in. I know that the major problem with Nigerians as a people is our attitude towards life. If somehow we are able to change our attitude, then we can change our circumstances. So the National Orientation Agency has a lot to do, but part of their problem is they are not well funded. So they've got a lot of ideas, a lot of things they would like to do, but the money to actually do it is not there. If there is a time the government needs to release money to the National Orientation Agencies now, so it becomes more active. We should hear their programs on radio, on television, the traditional media, the new media, you know, and communities need to organize themselves and start talking to each other. I mean, I was interested to hear how the other day on TV I saw Igbos came to the TV, the leader of the Igbos here in Jamaica, the one from Obalua, and all that. They were also on radio, and how they've been having various meetings, not only among themselves, but also with the communities within which they live. These are the sort of things that we need to start having. And like I said, the government should lead this. And then religious organizations, the mosques and churches also have to play a leading role in this. They have to begin to talk to their members, you know, and tell them how the fact that we are human beings first, and how it is actually a religious duty to love your neighbor as yourself. You don't choose your neighbor, do you?
I mean, you look at, for instance, the Nigerian national anthem. I mean, word for word. It's supposed to be a reflection of a people united under one umbrella. You look at the two religions that are very, very popular in Nigeria, Christianity and Islam. I mean, going by these three factors, we're not even supposed to have
we're not supposed to have
this country.
No, we're not supposed to. The thing is that
doesn't that indict us as a people, where I said some say we've lost our consciousness and you know, our patriotism? It's as if what it means to be Nigerian to me is quite different from what it means to be Nigerian to you.
It does. It's an indictment, really. We play religion verbally. It's on our lips. We're very religious. I mean, Nigerians are among the most religious people, you know, in the world. But it's just in our lips and physical actions. But we do not truly believe and act out those things that our religions demand of us. Love your neighbor as yourself, for instance. I was saying earlier, you do not choose your neighbor, which means you're not going to choose who you love. As long as he's a human being, we're supposed to love that person. But we do not see it. We do not see it. You hear situations of accidents, for instance, taking place, and it takes place in a community where probably the majority of the people are Christians, and the accident victims are Muslims, and they're ignored. or an accident takes place in a community where the majority of the people are Muslims and the majority of the people involved in the accident are Christians, and they're ignored. You have a situation where you sit in an office and you're taking in people, employments, and the rest of that. You go for people of your religion, even if they are not qualified. These things are happening. We're not talking about them, but they're happening. So our religion is in our mouth. Time has come when we must act out our religion. So religious leaders must play a leading role in this re-engineering that we're talking about. What happened in Rwanda, for instance, religious leaders actually played a role in fanning hatred. We must do the reverse here. Our religious leaders must call their followers to order.
We have to admit that Rwanda has done a beautiful job fixing their country back together.
Paul Kagame has done a lot.
For the people to have re-elected him, I mean, it says a lot about what he's been able to do.
Term. Yeah. And the country is doing well economically.
Yeah, so
they've learned their lessons.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the hard way.
Have we not learned ours? Because you look at the Rwandan example, for instance. Yes, it's not as complicated as Nigeria is, but you know they've been through a similar situation than what we went through in the late 60s with the Civil War. How much of the problem has to do with not just poor leadership, but lack of, you know, accountable followership too?
It's both ways. You know, you need to understand that leadership is a reflection of followership. Leaders don't fall from heaven. We get leaders from among the people, and the quality of the people will be reflected in the leadership. That's the thing. So you have a follower that is not accountable, a follower that has a wrong attitude towards life and all that. Eventually he becomes a leader, he carries it into leadership. Jojo
said it best. He said people who vote in corrupt leaders are not victims, they are accomplices.
That's right. That's the truth. I mean, we get what we deserve. That means that time has come for us to sit down and re-evaluate everything. I've been doing a lot of heart searching in recent times. You know, if I look at my daughter, for instance, you know, my first child is in the university. She's supposed to start university exams, her final exams next week. And ASU has gone on strike. ASU, please.
That's a very big issue for another time, hopefully.
But what I'm saying is, I look at my children, and I'm like, what am I doing to create a Nigeria in which they will rise up to their potential and enjoy living? What am I doing to create that kind of Nigeria? It's something I've been searching my heart in recent times, and I've been pushed towards greater positivity, towards greater involvement. I've been sitting on the sidelines as far as a lot of issues are concerned, but now I have decided to be involved. For instance, for a long time I've been sitting on the sidelines looking at politics, and I was like, typical Nigerian. These politicians, NCS and this and that. But I have decided that if I don't get involved, I have no right to complain.
So this passiveness in taking action has led us to this
That's right.
state.
It's resulted in the wrong people entering places they are not qualified for and doing the wrong things, and it keeps compounding the problem of Nigeria more and more. We have great people in Nigeria. We are a great people, but unfortunately we've allowed things to get out of hand because we're so passive about it. You know, we're not involved as we should be. Or even where we're talking, we don't really act out what we say we believe in. Time has come we change our attitude. That we believe that Nigeria can work, we believe that we can be at peace with each other, and work deliberately to achieve that. It's important we get to that level. So that, like I said, I've been doing a lot of soul searching. I don't want to turn around and just blame everybody. I mean, I want to look at myself. What is my contribution? What am I contributing to all this? Is it positive or negative, or is it no contribution at all? For most of us, it's no contribution at all. We're just sitting there allowing things to get out of hand. We somehow believe that Nigeria will fix itself. Nigeria will not fix itself. It is Nigerians that will have to fix themselves, and as a result of fixing themselves, they can then fix the country. There is no great country on earth that is not a product of hardworking citizens. No country. Greatness is not a product of accident. It never happens by accident. We want a great country, we must do great works. We must challenge ourselves to push ourselves to do what needs to be done. You are a university lecturer or a research fellow. You push yourself to do research, to come up with things that will solve problems for Nigeria, products that the world need, that will bring greater wealth, not just for you, but also for Nigeria. You are a teacher. You challenge yourself to teach your children, the students, give them the best. Pour your heart into them. I know of a teacher who had 32 students that he carried through a particular year. He so invested time in those 32 students that out of those 32, 8 of them right now are world famous, and none of them is a failure. And all of them attribute their success to that 1 year that they spent under this teacher. As a matter of fact, they've made it a tradition. Annually, they meet together to have a party for their teacher. He's an old man now. So teachers can make a lot of difference. I know we sit back, we say the resources are not there.
It's very interesting you said teachers, because a lot of people are saying, well, it's very good because they have not been paid their salaries and that. But how much of Nigeria's peace has to do with the fact that the problem is linked to Nigerians' over-dependency on the fact that they think government can actually fix any problem, no matter what, whether it's political, economic, or social? I mean, like we just pointed out, being passive about the issue. I mean, the government has the police; they control, virtually everything. They can fix the problem for us, right? It's wrong, isn't it?
It's a wrong attitude. It's a wrong attitude. I am involved with community development, community issues, and all that. I know that if we sit back as a community and wait for the government to do everything, it's not going to get done. I mean, I am from Numan. And I'm proud of Numan, But Numan is not everything I think it should be. There are some aspects about Numan that I see I don't like. For instance, there's this famous shop in Numan, they call it Ife. I'm not advertising for them, but it's a popular place in Numan. And I go there to buy things, And anytime I buy things and I turn around to drive away, on the gate, just close to the gate, to GSS, and GSS is a famous school. It's a former Bronum. There's this huge rubbish dump, rubbish pile there. It's horrible. If you're driving into town, you go through that, and it gives you a bad impression about the town. And for a long time, I was like, I didn't like it, but I decided to do something about it. So I organized the community cleanup. Called out people at the community. Some of our elites who couldn't make it sent in their contributions. The dancers came out, and it was this refuse dump. It was a great community time for all of us to come together and clear that place. The local government chairman came. His vice also came. Some of his councillors were there, and the decision was taken to clear that place and to come up with a system where the town will be kept clean. As a result of a citizen deciding to do something. And today you drive through that place, it's beautiful. The dump is not there. You will not even know that it used to be a dump site. And beside, Governor Bindo came and did his Bindo magic. That Ahmadu Bello way has been built, new, fresh. You drive through it, the car is just going smoothly. You think you are in America. The place is so beautiful. But what I'm saying is, I decided to take action, and other people joined in. You have a lot of power as an individual.
Because civic responsibility can help us, get rid of this challenge by, becoming aware.
That's right. We need to become aware. We need to begin to speak up on issues that matter. Don't just keep quiet and say the government has to do it. The government has to do it. The government is going to do it. For how long are we going to wait for the government? I mean, right now, another thing that's been disturbing me is the annual floods, that as a result of the Benue overflowing. I decided to do something about it. I organized young people. We took a 46-kilometer trek from Numan to Lamurde, covering the distance that was covered by the flood during the 2012 flood. That was a horrible flood. I'm sure you remember that. And we got our political representatives involved. They didn't do the actual trekking with us, but they were involved. We carried them along, our elites, people in Abuja, etc., etc. And as I'm talking to you today, it's in the budget for this year. So whether it will be done this year or next year, it doesn't really matter. What we want is for it to eventually be done. I am saying it again. A single individual can make a lot of difference. A single individual can make a lot of difference. If positive thinking people, hardworking people, if good people keep quiet, evil people will have their way. So to re-engineer the whole process and get ourselves back to sanity and stop all these hate speeches, instead of wasting our time, sending posts on social media, condemning each other, we're spending time positively and productively. It's going to take ordinary Nigerians standing up and speaking out. That was the point I was coming to. I said the government, I said religious leaders. Then my next point was going to be parents. Parents, you can influence your children. I talk to my children positively. I teach them the values of humanity. Accept human beings. The way you feel is the way they feel. Whatever will cause you to have malaria will cause the other human being to have malaria. And the drugs that cure malaria that work for you will also work for the other human. We're the same. We are the same. Let's not allow religious camps or tribal camps or regional camps to separate us. We must break down walls and learn to relate properly and respect each other. And then the next point I wanted to make is that of the ordinary citizens, which we've already spoken about. Ordinary citizens can organize themselves. They can speak up against this thing. They can plan community discussions where various tribes within a community come together and sit together and reassure each other that we're one, we're the same, we stand together. Nigerians need to understand that it is the greatness that God has put into this country can only manifest if we act as one, if we act unitedly. And Nigeria has such greatness that in acting unitedly, we will have greater good for the East, greater good for the South-South, greater good for the Southwest, greater good for the Middle Belt, greater good for the Northeast, greater good for the North Central, greater good for Nigeria. All of us will be manifested. If we stand together and act together, then it will be manifested if we go our separate ways. I assure you this, that the East, if it goes its way and becomes Biafra, it's not going to have it any better than it is having it in Nigeria. It's going to have it worse. Our potential is meant to be unleashed when we work together. And it's a potential that can make us one of the greatest countries on earth, that will give us benefits collectively than we would have achieved if we acted individually.
I have a theory, and it's quite similar to something I believe you put out some time ago, that the success of a nation with regards to socioeconomic growth and development is a collective of how peaceful every individual is in that particular union in Nigeria today. And you have a sense that a lot of Nigerians are not on board with either their local council, their state governments, or the national government. Everybody has his own idea of what Nigeria should look like. In fact, some people don't even believe in this country we call Nigeria today. I mean, we're talking about agitations, especially as it relates to the IPOB movement. What can de-escalate this situation at the moment, looking at what's happening on social media and looking at what's happening, practically with regards to the rhetoric that we've been talking about? What can de-escalate the issue, apart from just government's intervention, religious, as individuals? What can we do? I mean, at least stop tweeting, or maybe start tweeting positive, comments and posts like that. What can be done to de-escalate the issue? We
need to start looking at the positives. And there's a lot of positives to this. I mean, I will not forget 1996, August 3rd, August 3rd, 1996. You love football.
Yeah, sure.
You
I mean,
report a lot of
I
sports.
remember
August
that
3rd,
it was a rainy day, and it was perhaps the most memorable. Every member of the family was around, and for the very first time, I can memorize all the Nigerian athletes that were in Atlanta at that period.
It was wonderful. August 3rd, 1996. That was the day Nigeria won gold.
Exactly.
In the football event. And, you know, I like to look back on that, and I look at those who made up the team. We scored 3 goals that day. Argentina scored 2. And the 3rd goal was scored by Amunike. He beat the offside trap and put the goal in the net. And all those wild celebrations. Personally, I celebrated the semi-final win more than Brazil. The final itself. When we beat Brazil, you know, I would never forget those. That kind of.
Yeah, we made them cry. So
Zagallo was the coach that day. He regretted his decision to rest some of his best legs because he felt Nigeria was a walkover for them. But the point I'm making is, that day we won that tournament. Look at the 3 scorers. Celestin Babayaro is from the north. He scored a goal there. Emmanuel Amunike is from Benue, the middle belt. And then, Amokachi.
Emmanuel Amokachi.
Yeah, Emmanuel Amokachi is from the middle belt. Then Emmanuel Amunike. He scored the 3rd goal. He's from the east. That day, we made the whole of Africa and the black race proud. There were celebrations as far off as Egypt, Libya, Cameroon here, Ghana, all over the continent. Nigeria's victory was celebrated. We made the black race very, very proud. I remember an interview that was granted Pelé after that particular tournament, and what he said, he alluded to the fact that the black race has arrived because of what we achieved. We were able to achieve that because we worked together as Nigerians. We were able to achieve that. We cannot achieve it. Biafra on its own cannot achieve this. No can Oduduwa or any part of the country. I mean, Oduduwa, I'm not talking about breaking away, but whatever the name you give, whatever section of the country, we can only rise to our greatest moments in history, world history. Our greatest moments have always been when we work together. We need to begin to look at this. It's a lesson there, that we can only rise to our potential and do the great things that are on the inside of us when we work together. That kind of huddling together and fighting spirit we had when, what's his name now, Patrick Sawyer brought Ebola virus to Nigeria. Nigerians sacrificed themselves to make sure other Nigerians were saved. Dr. Ameyo Adadevo, I don't know why a national monument has not been named after this woman. But she was on duty that day. She made sure that he was not allowed into the general population, even though she was under pressure. And when it became clear that we had Ebola in Nigeria, we all huddled together. Lagos state government, the federal government, all other states, we were up and we fought it to a standstill and ensured that at the end of the day we had victory. 18 people infected in Nigeria, only 9 died. And it was a major victory because we worked together. Let's look at the positives. Working together, we are greater and better. Working together, we are greater and better. Nigerians need to look at this.
Okay. A very, very interesting point to finish this discussion, but I have to ask you, since you brought the Ebola issue up, I remember how my mom rang me up in the early hours of, I think it was a Wednesday morning, and then she said, you have to, exactly. Did you take that bath?
No, I didn't.
I didn't too.
I mean, I got about, if I remember well, 20-something text messages. That time WhatsApp was not the internet.
Yeah, definitely.
And they were telling me to bath with salt. I was like, man, what would salt?
I knew Ebola wasn't airborne, but I was scared for my life. I mean, I said I was going to live with the consequence of not bathing with salt at that hour. But thank you very much, Dr. Agoso, as always, for a wonderful discussion. We appreciate you very much for your informed analysis. Thank you very much. And this is where we'd like to anchor the program today. We apologize for inability to get through to your text message back and promise you that we'll bring back this topic in the next edition as we take a look at fixing Nigeria and perhaps also looking at some of the socio-political issues as well as the socio-economic aspects of whatever is wrong with the world's largest black population. My name is Abdullah Ahmed. For myself and the rest of the production team, we thank you very much for watching the program. Looking forward to seeing you next time. Goodbye.